So I was also want to talk about like the, a little bit more about how can the parents support the students kind of like a rebellious behavior. I think this is the kind of question that we mentioned, right?
Mhm.
Why we use the words, because we keep having a lot of complaint from the parents, like the students are really getting into the teenager period, right? The teenager mood, teenager behavior, teenager performance, teenager symptom, right? Okay. All right. So Dr. Gravlik and Clinton, you guys have been working with so many students, right? Do you feel like any moments you feel like the rebellious students, the behavior, like can stand out or help them kind of like in the application part? I do feel like, if the students are kind of like rebellious, and I feel like that kind of students maybe have more personality or stronger personality, and actually the personality is easy to stand out from my side. Okay, what do you guys think?
Well, let me give you an example from my own life. When I was in high school, I liked playing guitar mostly, but to get into the top schools, I needed to uh, pay more attention academically. But I wanted to rebel and play guitar and focus on music. When it came time for my Yale interview, the interviewer just happened to be interested in music. And had I not pursued my passion of music, I wouldn't have been able to answer some of his questions. And I think the reason that I was accepted into Yale was because we developed a rapport because of my passion for music. So I would say that sometimes when it would seem like a student is rebellious or pursuing an activity that might not be fully academic, sometimes there's a way to use that to your advantage and make yourself unique through that passion. So always look for passions and anything that you can turn into a project or just any sort of passion that you can build on. That's always going to help you.
I know that it's Dr. Grab must have more examples to say, but since you mentioned this, I have a really similar example that I can share with you guys. I have one student who's really interested in art, but his parents want him to go to business school to pursue business. And he definitely, his rebellion behavior is he didn't say no. He stopped talking to their parents. He stopped talking to the parents, and then the parents sent him to me, and we start talking. He refused to talk to me either. So we start walking up and downstairs. After 10 rounds, we're all exhausted, sitting on the floor, and he started crying. And he started to share his story to me. He's like, I'm really into art, but my parents want me to go to business school. And then we've been talking so many times. Finally, we find the direction that both his parent and he is happy. He went to art administration to have administration side into it. And he also have the art component. He also be able to take some paint classes, art classes in that program. And we actually put this story into his essay. And he focused more on the conflict between the parental expectation and his strong will and how he works through this. I feel like that essay is one of the most excellent essay I've ever seen because I can feel the student just want to do it. He had such a strong willing and he worked his way through it before college. And that's probably one thing that every counselor would love to see, like when your students find their way out.
All right. So Dr. Gravlik, would you like to share a little bit from the students, like the essay part, related to the rebellious behavior?
How to include it in an essay? Is that
Yep.
your
Yes.
Sure. Well, number one, tell the story, tell something in the moment, possibly that moment of conflict, the student versus parent, student versus counselor, whatever it was, because counselors like to read stories about people dealing with and overcoming adversity. They're very interesting and they make for an excellent movie, as Clint talked about before. I just thought of one that was amazing. I had a student who actually volunteered to do something that you wouldn't expect. She was part of a road crew, that often people who are guilty of crimes are put on one of those cleanup crews. They're wearing the orange. They're out around town cleaning up the trash or something. She began her essay by saying, everyone looked at me wondering, what crime could she be guilty of? Now, if I read that in the first line, I want to read more. Now, is that rebellious? It's certainly atypical, and it makes it seem as though she might be a rebel, not someone who would follow the law, but she kind of broke the law in terms of what was expected of her and what was expected of a dry, dull, way of telling her story. And when you're writing your Common App essay, you got that one essay to tell, something personal, something unique about you. You'll have individual essays to each of the individual schools that you're applying to talk about their programs. So use that opportunity to really stand out and, and be a rebel. Do something different.
That's good. That's good. So actually today, after today's lecture, I hope the parents gonna feel like, oh, happy, like, oh, I feel good. When the kids say no, when a kid just doesn't really want to follow, you kind of should like cheer for yourself. Like, I have a kid full of personality, that kind of rebellion moment can eventually be a story. And I should really be patient and just respect who they are and listen what they talk about, what they think. I think that's very important because I do see a lot of conflict. The parents really think like, oh, this is good for you. This is good for you. I know it because I experienced it before. So you don't know. That's why you have to listen to me. But to think about it, when we parents, when we were, like teenager, were we listen to the parents? I doubt about it, right? So we don't really want to share more stories today about our personal story, but I do see there's a power behind the rebellion. There's the rebellion, there's the power. If you discover the power, you can unlock the magic. When you unlock the magic, you will, I definitely believe the students will wow the parents. Well, that's most of my students do,